I think. 5:30, so
Do we?
go ahead, get started, so. All right, so welcome to the Lewiston Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting for July 23rd, 2025 at 5:30. So first item on the agenda is our call to order, which I just did, and then item number 2 on our agenda is citizens' comments. So this is an opportunity for citizens to address the commission with comments and or questions about planning and zoning commission related matters that are not related to a public hearing that we have as an action item on this agenda. So does anybody have any comments not related to public hearing tonight? No, nothing called in, emailed in, Jen, Dawn? I almost called you Jen, sorry, Dawn.
I'm just looking at it.
All right, well, that makes number 2 really easy. So number 3 on our active agenda, item A is approval of the July 9th, 2025 meeting minutes. So did everybody get a chance to look over those? Did as well. I thought they looked excellent as always.
Mr. Chairman, I move that for the approval of the July 9th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented.
I will happily second that motion. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. All right, motion carries. Welcome, Commissioner Anderson.
Steep River Ave.
That's okay. I'm still having work mode stuff. All right, item B on our active agenda is a public hearing and subsequent deliberation and direction to staff regarding a written decision for an amendment to the Canyon Crest Planned Unit Development Agreement. So before we get started on this public hearing and I open it up, I'll just lay out the process for how public hearings work. So once I open the public hearing, we will hear testimony from staff, which will be Katie Urchel here. After that, then the applicant will have the opportunity to present any testimony that they would like. After the applicant has presented their testimony, then the public can provide testimony. We will also hear from anybody who's called in, emailed in that we have not seen or heard from before. And then after that, if there is any testimony in opposition, the applicant will have the opportunity to discuss, rebut any of those, any of that testimony, and then we will close the public hearing. And then after we close the public hearing, we will deliberate. So we do ask public comments to be limited to 3 minutes, just so everybody has a chance to speak. I won't be hard and fast with that rule, but I'll kind of give you a heads up if you're starting to run a little bit long. So with that said, I will open up the public hearing and we'll start by presentation from staff.
Wait, did I do that?
Hey. I'm gonna start off with some visuals. If I can not fight with Donna with a cursor.
No, you're good.
No, you can have.
With GIS. Yeah, it just looks like it's cut off, but that's okay. It's fine.
No.
So this is a aerial photograph from our geographic information system. North is up. This is Lindsay Creek Road. This development down here, you see at the south end of this is the north end of what Canyon Crest Plan Unit Development is currently built to. This is 18th Street. And the pavement ends right about here. And from there on, the road is closed as a public roadway. And it turns into a private roadway, which is this gravel and dirt road. that goes and connects the paved 18th Street to Lindsay Creek Road as a secondary fire access to the subdivision. The developer, as noted in Gabe's description from the agenda item, is asking for reduction in the standard to complete this road. And we'll look at that in a minute. Let's see here. Just to give you an idea and perspective, the roadway segment we're talking about is here. And it, when developed, will turn into a public paved roadway with a pathway alongside of it. And it is going to funnel traffic from Burl Avenue through the subdivision and down to Lindsay Creek Road and vice versa. So the properties here, here, and here are, this one's in the process of being developed. These are going to be developed. So there's going to be, you know, more traffic, especially after this part of Canyon Crest builds out. And so that's kind of what we're talking about, is traffic flow all through here.
Go against it or something?
Keep going, Joe.
Here, what else do I have? So this is the standard. The road is supposed to be developed in the existing PUD agreement. You can see the cross section here. We travel ways in a 60-foot right of way with 2 7-foot wide turf planter strips on either side with trees in those planter strips, and then a paved pathway outside of, on one side of the street, outside the paved or the turfed tree planter strip. So that's the standard that's supposed to be developed according to the agreement. The developers are asking that the turfed planter strip and the trees go away. And also that the design of the street itself, which is supposed to be a crowned roadway, which means it slopes from center line to either side, be changed to a shed design, which is a one-way slope from one edge to the other. They're also asking for streetlights to be illuminated from being placed along the roadway, except for at the top of the hill and at the bottom of the hill where it connects to Lindsay Creek. We do. This is hard to see because it's so small. But this is an engineering drawing of the requested cross section for the street. You can't really see it from this distance, but it does not include the turf planter strips, the street lights, and it shows the shed design of the roadway.
Zoom in, Joel.
Get it to go. Or
There's still an 8-foot pathway on the one side.
there is. Yep. And it will still be paved. So that's what that looks like. Enough of that. Now we'll look at some site photographs of the roadway as it actually exists today. So this is where the paved section of 18th Street ends and the gravel road begins. And we're just gonna drive down that hill. This is what is supposed to be a future RV storage area. It's like there's something in there already. That's on the west side of the road at the top of the hill. This is getting ready to descend and head a little bit to the west northwest. Going down the hill, you can see the terrain. Looking down where it connects to Lindsay Creek Road. Terrain on the west side toward the bottom. That's the only one I have looking back up the hill. Getting ready to go around the corner down to where it connects to Lindsay Creek Road. There's a gravel pullout currently over here. Making that corner. Looking down the last straight stretch. And this is where it connects to Lindsay Creek Road. Hopefully that gives you some visual context. Just gonna put. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that up. Wrong one. The other one. Sure. Okay, so I'll give you some summary from the written staff reports. Reports plural this time. You've got one from Community Development and one from the Engineering Division of the Public Works Department. Subject property is currently undeveloped. It's planned to remain that way. I'm talking about the land on the sides of the road. It's not supposed to be developed as part of the subdivision. It's planned to be remaining vacant. The road's supposed to be improved to from the gravel configuration to a paved street with a parallel paved walking and biking trail and street tree planter strip no later than the construction of the 300th dwelling unit in the PUD. To date, there have been 166 dwelling units constructed, so they've got a long way to go before the trigger hits for them to further develop this roadway and complete it and turn it into a public road. Here.
Do you know how long that road is?
It's about 1,000 feet, I believe. The development to the south of this area where this road, connector road goes is going to be built out as part of the Canyon Crest PUD with a combination of mixed use development and mixed housing types, including duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, townhomes, and clustered single family housing as options in future phases. You've got all the relevant code sections in the staff report. I'm not going to go through those. Page 6 of my staff report. I've included approximately a page of statements that I believe should be looked at from the comprehensive plan relative to this request, or could be related to the request anyhow. You're going to want to consider that after the public hearing when you're deliberating on your decision, because you should be making a statement as to whether or not the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The analysis section of my report, I defer to the engineering division staff report. I'll just hit a few points of that I think are highlights. On the first page of it, it says road improvements are required once 300 dwelling units have been built. The developer anticipates reaching this threshold in approximately 10 years. However, developers have approached the city with a design for the extension. That's the design we're talking about tonight, the requested design, which they could finance within the next couple of years. This is advantageous to the community as it will reduce traffic volumes on Burrell Avenue, Warner Avenue, and Thane Road. Additionally, it provides permanent secondary access for all development north of Burrell Avenue along 18th Street, enabling the construction of additional housing. Further down on the staff report for engineering, it says the proposed rural roads typically do not include features such as street tree street lighting, street trees and sidewalks and curb and gutter. It goes on to say that street trees increase maintenance costs of a street due to root intrusions and the shedding of foliage. Per city lighting policy, street lights are generally installed every 350 feet or at intersections and mid-block in less densely populated areas such as the orchards. An additional light on the west side of the hairpin corner at the intersection with the future access route shown on sheet three, C3 of the plans is recommended. I'll go back and remind you, I pointed out earlier, they're only planning 2 streetlights now. We're asking for 2 streetlights now, one at the top of the hill, one at the bottom. We're recommending that at least a third one be added at where there is a planned future access road coming in somewhere down in this area. They also say engineering division says traffic calming measures, including intersection choke points and a narrower roadway. Include intersection choke points and a narrower roadway. Installing unwarranted stop signs can be counterproductive as drivers may begin to disregard them, reducing their effectiveness. Public Works does not support using speed bumps on collector streets. This is planned to be a collector street. Marked crosswalks should be placed only where pedestrian volumes justify them. The city is open to including a pullout area along the road as suggested in one of the received public comments. That pullout area, I would add to this comment from engineering, maybe that an extra street light should be put in there too.
Where is that at?
Let's see if I have a drawing for that.
Yeah.
Boulders behind Gabe's head. See it from here.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. I can get it from here. Better drawings. So that is down just south of where that gravel pullout area currently is. It's this right here.
A future
Future,
access to the
correct.
south, the north.
Right. So the first street light would be up here at this future alley. Second one they're asking for, not asking for, but asking to reduce to is down here at the bottom of the hill at Lindsay Creek. And staff is recommending that if the Planning and Zoning Commission approves this request, they require a third one at this route. And depending on how far away from the intersection here, depending how far that away is to the pullout area, perhaps another one at the pullout area.
When we're discussing streetlights, we're actually just talking illumination, not signal.
Correct. Street,
Okay.
yep.
So how many would, if it's remained unchanged, how many streetlights would there be?
Well, I'll let engineering answer that. They can do it better than I can. Their staff report said the standard is 350 feet, but typically not along rural roadways like this. So there really isn't a spacing standard called out in the PUD agreement for the street lighting, nor for the street trees. So that's vague right now. It's up in the air. Yep.
What phase is the development in? Which section, which phase?
Katie, do you remember?
Well, it's not. Oh,
So-
it is phased, but their phases are like phase 3C, and then it'll have like another number and another letter.
So when we looked at the GIS, sorry.
We're currently working on 4A1.
I'm sorry, we're just gonna have to limit the comments from the back there, because for establishing the record, we need to identify who's speaking, and if we can't see who's speaking, then we can't identify that for the record.
Yeah, I'm not sure what number it is. There are different phase numbers associated with the subdivision plats. They don't necessarily coincide directly with the phasing in the master plan for the PUD. the PUD phasing plan doesn't use numbers, it uses descriptive categories. And the current phase they're in is still the single family dwelling phase. Their next phase to the north is gonna be a mixed use phase.
And if we were to look back at the GIS and you can see section markers.
Sure what you're referring to.
I'm just looking at the red line blocks. So you can see the current development appears to be overlapping into what I see sectioned off in the red lines.
This is, oh, this one here?
Yeah. So
I believe this is the end of their single family development phase.
so therefore, the next section would then be going to the
So the multi-housing type phase.
And if I may, the undeveloped strip, that little peninsula down. Is that inclusive of this development?
No,
Not below, to the left. There you go.
yes,
Yes, that's what I
it's
thought.
gonna remain as open space, I believe.
Well, you're indicating, so the engineer is gonna come up and chit chat with us?
If you have questions for him, sure. But that's the end of my summary of the staff report.
Any questions for Joel before we let him out? Let's see.
I would like, if you don't mind, clarity, you said on the road as it leaves the current, the housing development that exists now, the homes, and heads down towards Lindsay Creek. You said that is a private road.
Yep.
Until it hits a little bit past the hair turn, or the hairpin, is that correct, down towards the bottom?
No, all the way to Lindsay Creek.
All the way in Lindsay Creek, okay.
Yeah, it's currently not dedicated public right of way. It's only serving as a fire access road.
And you also stated that the ground on either side flanking the road and the road development was not to be developed.
Correct.
So it's just gonna be green space on what appears to be the east of the access way road?
It's all just gonna be undeveloped, whatever state of condition that it's in now, except for the area where the RV storage is going to, or supposed to be going to be.
So, I'm sorry, last follow-up and then I'll quit. So this weird little, whatever that shape is, that appears to be plowed field, or, yeah, all of that color. That is the primary development. And,
That's the future phase.
yeah,
Yep.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
I guess I have a question. So the part that's supposed to be Malta, there, like where your little star is. that-
Yeah.
Now, would that road have trees on it? Does the road below have trees? Is it developed or are they asking for the whole?
This here?
Yes,
No,
that would not have trees if we accept this proposal.
correct.
Okay. And so how, the part that's already developed, is it to the city standards? Is it crowned with the?
Ground curb gutter sidewalk. Because it has a sidewalk, there's no paved path, and there are street trees. The condition of the road really changes once you get to this point, when it starts dropping down and this is not gonna be developed and it's gonna be more of a rural road. There's a topographical difference between this road and the area that is gonna be developed.
So you're saying it's got a pretty steep downhill run.
Well, it's uphill to the west from the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, okay.
It drops off pretty steep to the east.
Thanks.
Just as a clarification, so we're considering this section of roadway rural. Is that whole roadway considered rural, or what is that based off of?
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Pat Severance with the Engineering Department. One quick clarification. Where the variance or where the changes from what they've been developing so far, what we've seen out there are sidewalks on both sides and trees. That change occurs at about this gravel pit area where the RV storage is. And so, yeah, so this will all be that more urban style roadway that you see.
Standard, the existing standard.
Right. And then the transitions here, and then there's no development. You saw the topography is just too steep.
For that balance.
Yeah, you bet.
So Shay,
I guess my question was, we're considering that section rural, is the rest of that street considered rural, or is it based off of traffic flow?
Just on the environment. Just the built environment. It was where do you transition from when you're going from a rural, and Lindsay Creek doesn't have any lights on it at all. And so when the question was brought to us, we're trying to build this road, but there's a few things that we're considering so we can accelerate the time frame of when it goes in. And one is, what's the need for lights? And we said, well, this is not gonna have adjacent homes to it. And so we felt that it'd be okay to just do what we typically do in more rural areas, is that intersections. Some lighting.
but the proposed asphalt path will continue the full length from the
Yes.
current development all the way to
Right.
Lindsay.
Yep.
Now, how will the change from the crown to just the single side slope, how is that going to affect like runoff?
So
Cause I'm looking at it in terms of, I mean, logically, you'd want it to, I would assume, slope to the downhill side, but is that going to affect Lindsay Creek? Is that going to increase, runoff and turbidity and all of those types of factors?
they're gonna meet the city requirements for stormwater infiltration. So what they've done, this is a real steep road. It is narrower though. So this is kind of, I think it's, how wide is it? 24 feet wide? Yeah, 24 feet wide of pavement. So shedding it to one side shouldn't cause a problem. We have roads that are 40 feet wide, and if you have a crown slope, that means it's going from center line to the curb line 20 feet. This is gonna be going from edge of pavement 24 feet to the curb line. There'll be a curb line all along the outer edge, and there'll be what we, technical term is guzzler inlets. These are huge inlets that have a standard catch basin with an 8 to 10 foot run out prior to it to really force that stormwater into the stormwater system. They'll all get channeled to infiltration basins along the roadway.
So there will be collection along the way as it goes along, and there'll be some curbing, it sounds like.
Yeah, curbing all along one side where, like you said, it's directed towards the outside, curbing that full length with a collection system and then also a treatment system for.
And then the pathway along the hillside,
The pathway's on the outer side.
Like from the outside.
like the west side or the
No,
east side?
east
On the east side,
Yeah,
so same direction as
downhill
where the
side.
water's going?
yes. Yep. Can I pull up that cross section or actually, do you have the plans up here? Is that? I've got them in paper form. No, I could zoom in on the plans.
I only have the cross section and the one showing the future exit, the full length of the,
Oh, yeah, this.
I only have 2 sheets. And that one shows the infiltration benches as well. Basins.
So this is, it's hard to see. What we have here is where my cursor is, that's the pathway. The dark line, that's the curb line.
Okay.
This would be center line of the street here. So the stormwater will go to the east to that curb line and then flow in to a stormwater system that channels the water. Here's one of the infiltration basins. And then the pathway stays on one side the entire length.
Where is the pullout? Did you already show me that?
That was a comment that was brought by someone brought to the,
It's in one of the letters.
There's one of the letters.
and what we were just saying is we're not opposed to it. There isn't a designed pullout through here. There's some flat areas down here that someone could traverse to, but there isn't a designated pullout right now.
So where would you think a pullout would be if we were to add that to the proposal? You don't have any idea?
I don't know where, I think they said, was it for police that they wanted it for?
That was it didn't really,
Didn't really say.
I don't think it
Maybe
was
it's-
proposed by the applicant, I think.
No, it was
this
one of the
just a
letters.
Suggestion, yeah.
Well, it says in the engineering report, the city is open to including a pullout along the road as is suggested in one of the received public.
and my thought would maybe be once it's fully like end to end open, the trap would lay.
So, because I'm assuming at this stage of the game, this is, I mean, as it is right now, it's fire access. And then I'm assuming that that will kind of remain the primary use up until development reaches a state where it's gonna be,
It'll be once this is built, it'll be fully dedicated to the city, so it'll be an open street.
oh, okay.
They
So-
wanted the pullout for law enforcement or emergency vehicles.
Yeah, so I would ask them for where they think they need it. We could probably consult the police department to see.
I would also note that as far as conditions that you place on that, conditions are limited by Idaho code and city code, so you'd have to justify it under one of those statutory provisions too, as far as any potential conditions.
And I think you guys said the guesstimation is it's approximately 1,000 feet
Oh, the length of this?
total length.
I can tell you real quick.
Where it transitions from the double
Yeah.
step to this. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's going from the home
Where's the
to
connector? Yeah.
It's about 2,000 feet.
about 2,000 feet. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a huge differential.
All those curves, I guess.
So the original design for the PUD was to have trees along that entire stretch?
On
Okay,
both sides.
on both sides, okay.
And lighting.
And lighting.
The lighting wasn't in the PUD, but it's a city standard, so we thought we'd just clarify that in the PUD change.
So, but this is intended to be a city street.
Yes, yep,
Lindsay is county.
right. And the county is reviewing it currently for comment at the intersection. So they may have some additional comments on the configuration of this intersection to make sure there's safe turning there.
18th all the way through the current development will then become a carrier for essentially people on that end that want to drop down the middle, want to drop.
Right.
Yes.
In the traffic studies that have been done, there was an assumption that 25% traffic from the development would go north along this route versus go south to Burl.
And the assessment, so from the development, but also from surrounding neighborhoods.
It didn't look at, we looked at development traffic. The city doesn't have what we call an origin destination traffic model, which is you put in a bunch of incentives and ideas or attractions in one area of town and population growth in another. And then you put in constraints of speed limits and road geometry and traffic, and it figures out the way that traffic's gonna move. And then you can make changes to it and then figure out how traffic's going to accommodate the change. We don't have that origin destination model, and here is the MPO. So it's really hard to plug in how is the surrounding traffic going to start utilizing this.
In the proposal, it did, I believe, indicate that it would be redirecting or mitigating the heavy traffic on Warner.
It will
So
reduce by
coming off
the,
the thing.
so the development traffic, 25% of it will head north along this rather than be forced to go to Burl and east towards Warner and Thane. The Orchards has a couple of options. They can go down Lindsay Creek at Grell and 20th. And then at a certain stage, they can also access Lindsay Creek and Gun Club at 10th and Warner. So there's a few corridors that they can choose from. So somewhere in between those access points, someone's gonna decide, I'm gonna take this road instead. People, even if it's longer time-wise, say for someone to go a certain route, typically they don't backtrack, even if it's shorter for them. So if someone lives on 17th Street, it's hard for them to commit to going to 18th Street and north along Lindsay Creek. They're still gonna go down 10th and Gun Club. So
So would this be a 25-mile-an-hour road, or how would the speed limit?
it's 25.
It would be 25 all the way through.
Yeah.
Okay. great.
And they've been, as they develop, if you go down that road, they put channelization or bump outs in the roadway to help create conflict and slow speed. There's the first stretch there from the early development north of Earl to the first phase of Canyon Crest that's wide open. And their people speed through there. And it's just because they have that sense of openness.
And so what's a bump out?
Bump outs where the curb encroaches in on the travel lane.
Hourglass of the road.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm on campus. They're really annoying. But they were.
It's the illusion.
You're gonna
that,
get a bump.
Okay,
Thank you.
Is that good? Yes.
thank you.
All right, thanks.
Well, we've had our staff presentation. Is the applicant here? Do they want to? So feel free to come up, just say your name, city of residence, and then feel free to add any commentary that you would like.
Sure. My name is Ryan Schmidt. I live at 213 Hillcrest Road. I'm one of the developers. And I'd like to go back to this. So I just want to make it real clear what we're talking about. So 18th Street is currently paved right there. And we're not in any way proposing any changes along here until we get to the top of the hill. And the proposal is from the top of the hill. It winds this corner and goes down a hill. So the section we're talking about is not visible from the homes in the neighborhood. It winds the corner, goes down the hill. So everything visible from the homes would stay the same. We in no way want to reduce the standards where the homes are. We take a lot of pride in our neighborhood. We put a park in right here. We're gonna put a trailhead here. We've actually started working on some trails throughout here. That's something that's really important to us. So we're not trying to reduce anything in the neighborhood. But what we're looking at is this connector road. Getting it paved would shorten the travel distance for a lot of people that live here. And we think it would make it more appealing. And so we're probably more than a decade out from being required to construct it, because it isn't until we're constructing the 300th home, including the original phase 1 Canyon Crest. It started in 2007. There's 166 homes, less than 10 per year. We got 130 to go. You know, we're looking easily 10 years out. But we started asking the question with our engineer, could we put this in sooner? What would the cost be? And he gave us an original cost estimate. And as the process has gone on, Pat talked about how, we have to put stormwater and we had to put in more catch basins than we expected. This section here is a little difficult to develop because you might be able to tell from one of those pictures. It isn't like you have a bunch of topsoil to work with. It's pretty much rock. And so as far as getting stormwater in, you have to actually blast or use something to get through that rock. And so we're sort of fighting difficult terrain there. There's not anything like any trees. There's barely any vegetation. And so we're basically just trying to make it so that people that live in the neighborhood can have a paved road down to Lindsay Creek, and then if you're going, whether it be, you know, downtown Lewiston, I mean, if you're coming down here, that would be the fastest way. You'd drop onto Lindsay Creek, you'd go down, hit the bypass. So we're looking at doing it early because we just think it would really benefit our development. Now, just to be clear, this area here, you can kind of tell it's one farmer that was farming this. This all someday should develop, or it's part of our PUD. And as far as for whatever extent you're interested, single family homes, at one time, the map had multifamily in here, but we amended the PUD a while back. Along the east side of 18th, these would be duplex townhouses, at least that's what we're looking at. And then over here, potentially apartments up here by the gravel pile. Everything else would be single family. So all through here and here would be single family homes. Currently, this area over here is half owned by us and half owned by a farmer. So we don't know if we're gonna be able to get that into the PUD or not. The farmer doesn't want to sell at this time. And so as far as a road coming up along this way, it's kind of contingent on, we don't own all of this. So there is a possibility the road would come around, wrap around this way if this became part of it. But at this point, it isn't. But back to this here, you know, when we started this process at the start of the year, our engineer gave us an estimate of what it would cost to build, and we thought we could make that work. You know, it's not that easy to prepay something like that, but we thought we can make it work. And as we went through, complied with city standards, got some preliminary estimates from a contractor, the cost has gone up 50% from what we thought it was at the start of the year. And that doesn't include street trees or additional lighting or anything like that. It's gone up 50%. And so it's already at a point where I can't guarantee we're going to proceed. The idea was we'll do this early because it's worth it, but there is a limit to what we can front, you know, there is a limit. And so we're pretty much at a point where if the cost goes up further for putting in trees and lighting and changing the design, putting stormwater on both sides of the road, I don't see how we would proceed. We would just have to abandon it for now and wait until it's required, probably 10+ years from now. But we'd really love to put it in. We think it would be a real benefit. I would think the neighbors would rather have it in without the trees and additional lighting than not have it. But, you know, that's what we're requesting. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there's.
So in your proposal, where would your initial light be? If you're doing two, I mean, the one obviously is pretty obvious where it comes on to Lindsay Creek, but where would the initial light be located?
And I think, would it be right there?
Right
By the alley?
Yep, right at the alley.
Yeah, so you can kind of see it here, but there's an alley behind here. And so the alley would connect right there. So I think that where the alley connects to the road, I think is where it would go. One of the challenges is right now, you know, as we develop, we bring power along 18th. So there's currently no power here. And so, so the plan, I don't think, the plan was not to run power down this road. There's not going to be no homes. It's, you know, just a connector road. So if we have to put lighting in, then we also have to figure out how to get the power, you know, the lights might be the cheap part. It might be running the power down the road that becomes expensive. And if you remember those pictures, it's a pretty narrow, there isn't room to build anything along either side. It's just going down the grade. So it's not like anything's going to get constructed on it.
And it basically will essentially be kind of at that starting corner, just so that people have. I'm just looking at it from a safety standpoint, and I've just kind of looking at the topography. It's a drop off. So I like the idea of having lighting right there at the top of that corner.
And if I might say, it was not apparent when I was going through the packet earlier. My biggest concern is if we're gonna have houses, we need to have the current standard.
Absolutely.
But I can see where hoops off around where the future RV is. You said that it literally drops out of visual sight
Oh, yeah.
due to
It
the.
wraps around the corner and goes down a hill to where you definitely can't see it. If you remember some of those pictures, that there's a rock bluff here that's almost vertical. And it goes down, it's pretty steep grade. It won't be visible. You know, just the bend is the last part that's visible from anyone, and then it goes behind here and down the grade.
And initially I was worrying about, when you live out in the country, the first thing you do is go on the low travel. Like walks, not around the neighborhood if you don't want people. So I can imagine if you have a paved path, people are gonna be heading down that direction and biking up it, et cetera. But, I wouldn't breach it in the evening anyway, you know, so I would stand more relative.
Right.
As an end user, that's my thought.
And I mentioned that in my request, you know, Lindsay Creek doesn't have a path of any kind, so it's not like you would expect someone to be walking down this road and then proceeding to walk down Lindsay Creek. You know, the walking, it's not really a destination to walk here, it'd be to enjoy the trails. And we do have a trail that we've started that kind of goes along here and then connects here. And then that's part of the reason why we put the walking path on the outside is so right now there's a trail that goes through here and then through here above Lindsay Creek, and then it connects right there. Then that paved path would then wrap it up here on a paved road. But again, that's for daytime, you know, leisure walking, not so someone can walk somewhere along Lindsay Creek.
I have a question, sorry, just to make sure consistency with prior amendments. Is this particular amendment gonna require any changes to the open master plan that previously was approved by the Parks and Rec Department?
No. Because the master plan, I believe, has a trail, it shows a trail running up this road just as it is.
So you mentioned the costs going up exorbitantly from your initial estimates. If hypothetically we rejected this, I mean, what would be the fallback in terms of, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot for trying to do a redesign right now, but what would you be able to do, or what would you have to cut back in terms of with rising costs for the development for your PUD?
If the PUD is rejected, the amendment is rejected, we'll just, we aren't gonna have our engineer try to redesign it, we'll just put it on hold. You know, it's nice that we've gotten it this far, so we kind of have an idea of what it will cost, you know, if we're doing it in 5, 10, 15 years, but it's already to a point where if we had known the cost, if I knew 5 months ago what I know now, but the cost, we wouldn't have even gotten this far. But because we've gone this far, we've paid for the engineering, you know, I really want to try to get it done. We're trying to see if we can come up with some additional funding, but as it is, it's going to be a challenge.
So I still have a question about streetlights. One would be there at the alley. Would there be any additional, or would that be the only streetlight that would be put in?
As part of this, it would just be right up here at the top. Now, because this here is going to be developed, eventually, so the way the phases work is we run up the hill here. So the sewer runs down this hill, and so you run the sewer line up the hill as far as it'll gravity feed. And so as we develop roads up this way, streetlights will go down 18th as we develop and eventually reach that last light as we develop down it. And then that would be the last one from there down to the connection with Lindsay Creek.
So we're just talking about lighting along that stretch of road.
Right.
That section.
Sure. Question for the applicant for clarity. Brian, don't the plans show another streetlight at the bottom at the connection with Lindsay Creek Road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna ask for the same clarification. So just the two.
And if I may ask, when you're talking about the intersection that where it joins to Lindsay and the county's currently reviewing or assessing that access point, and maybe their own personal requirements, is running the power realistic to bring it all the way down from the top, or actually find power from?
You know if there's power in Lindsay Creek?
Well, there must be.
Well, there
There's a
must be with the
there.
house right there.
Yeah. So currently we're not, I mean, presumably there's power, yeah, there's a house there. So for this light, there's power here, and then we would have to get power to here, which eventually we'd have to, but we're not planning to run power down the road. Because there isn't, there isn't any
There are
structures planned to
poles.
be built.
There are power poles right along the west side of Lindsay Creek all the way down, so.
So my question being, somebody might say, well, if you have to take power all the way to Lindsay Creek, then you've already run the line. And that the
Yeah,
question
yeah.
posed is to prove there's already power at the bottom, so there is not that 2,000 feet or whatever it is, a requirement to run the power the entire length of it, just to get to the bottom. That was my point.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioners, are we good?
Thank you for your time.
Testimony, yep. All right, at this time, we'll hear public testimony, so don't all come running up to the podium at once. But just state your name and your address and feel free to express your thoughts.
Okay, good evening. My name is Roger Terry. I live at 3216 Park Ridge Way in the Canyon Crest neighborhood. And I'm pleased to have an opportunity to speak with you this evening. First off, a couple of concerns I have. Up until recently, that road, that gravel road going down to Lindsay Creek has been open. As of recently, it's been closed off and prohibiting access for people that have been using that road to get to town. So one question is, why is it closed off? When will it be opened up again? Secondly, if you haven't seen actual property, I would suggest that you maybe drive by quickly. It's a very steep road and it's very, I think would be very treacherous at night. If the city's gonna eventually, if it's gonna fall into the city requirements at some point in time, I think you're gonna need more than just the two lights on that particular stretch. The one at the top is great, the one at the top, bottom is fine as well. But I think you're gonna need one at the 300 feet all the way down. That would be my opinion. You should take a look at it. As far as the proposed changes, I don't have any problem with the street changes the design from to the single slant. It makes sense. I don't have really any problems with, and now having heard the testimony about eliminating the trees and grass area, although since this is gonna be a major entrance down the road to the people of 300 homes in that area, I think they're gonna want something that's more compliant with what they see in the rest of Lewiston than just a blank rural road, because quite frankly, I don't think it is a rural road. And it won't be in the future, that's for sure, when you have all those people using that road to get to town. And let's see, what's the other thing? Oh, and by the way, another reason why I don't think it's a rural road, we've had several visitors come to town, putting in Google Maps, our home, and they come up that road, which they haven't been able to do because it's closed off. So if it's a rural road, I don't know if somebody should talk to Google about taking that off the proposed way to get to Canyon Crest. It would be a shame if they couldn't do something with the pathways on either side of the road. Like I say, it's gonna be entrance into a major community in the neighborhood of upscale homes. So I would think that something a little bit nicer than just a 2-lane highway with drainage would be a little bit necessary or maybe required by the city. That's all I have.
Any additional testimony?
Hi, Dan Young, Lewiston. So the first question I have is, does any city staff know what it costs for a street light? Maintenance, because once the street light goes in, the developer puts the light in, and then it goes over to the city, and the city has to write a check to Avista for each light. And I know there's over 400 lights currently in town. Do you know that one?
Hopefully that's within the scope of this particular hearing.
I'm just trying to figure out if it's worth the cost of putting in a street light. I'm just trying.
You can propose that to them, but this isn't. If you'd like to present that as data for or against it,
Okay.
that's within.
I
the
would
scope of
propose that
providing that.
you minimize the street light requirement just due to the ongoing cost of owning streetlights. That's the simple way of saying it. When the city takes over the ownership of the light, then they have to pay for it. So the more lights that go in, the more it's gonna cost the city forever on a check that has to be written to Avista. So here's the decision. Road today or road 10 years from now? And if you want the road today, you have to put in a side slope and compromise on a few lights and do away with the trees. Or you wait 10 years-ish and you get the road with the trees and the lights. I think it's that simple of a choice. And based on the 160 homes that are in there and the other homes that are to the south that Pat referenced that may or may not use that roadway, I personally think it's a very easy decision. You get the road paved and let people start using it. The way that I understand it is this is a private road and it shouldn't even be driven on by people living in the neighborhood. That road is there for fire access exclusively. There was a sign, I don't know if this is there anymore, but it says private road, no access, other than for the fire department. So that, as of now, that's a fire access road and that's it. It shouldn't be on Google Maps and it shouldn't be being used by the public, the way I understand it. And you guys can double check that. But if I lived in the neighborhood on, those 2 streets or 3 streets we can see right there, Park Ridge and Golden Hills and Pioneer and Clearwater and all the other streets in that neighborhood, if I'm going anywhere downtown or north, I'm going on that road and it'll take all the pressure off Burl and that direction. I just think it's a very easy decision to say yes to this, in my opinion. Thank you.
Is there any additional testimony from the public?
Yeah, one more comment. I understand that the estimate's gone up 50% since the plan was
I'm
originally put
sorry, you have to
together.
reintroduce yourself.
Roger Terry, 3216 Park Ridge Road, Canyon Crest. I understand that the cost has gone up 50%, so from the original plan was put through, and that's a big nut to cover when you're not expecting it. However, I can understand why the cost now of doing it, even though it's inflated, what's it gonna be like 10 years from now? It's gonna be at least double, I would estimate. So I don't know how that argument of like, do it now with the corrections or the changes or wait 10 years. From a cost standpoint, 10 years down the road, it's gonna be a lot more cost than it is today. Just,
Would the applicant like to add any testimony or rebut anything if you feel like it?
Sure, Brian Schmidt, 213 Hillcrest Road.
I'm sorry, we have more comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. But you skipped over that, Don. I had it in my head and then skipped it. Did we have any additional testimony that came in that we had not been provided?
I have not received anything, but I do need to confirm that all of you
Okay.
received it in the packet.
Yes.
We did.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Please go ahead.
So, our group bought the land from the prior developers in 2014. So we've been doing this a little over 10 years. We're not gonna do this forever. If we push it out 10 years, it's probably not gonna be us doing it. So we'd really like to get this done. The housing market's pretty soft right now for us. Things have been pretty slow. You never know how long there's gonna be a demand for these lots. We have competition. It's a stretch right now to do it as it is. But it's not an unlimited price we would pay. So, as far as delaying it into the future, it might not be us doing it.
So can I ask a quick question before we close the public hearing? And maybe I missed it in the presentation. So it was mentioned that that road is a private road, but it's used, and maybe I'm not seeing it on this map, but is there another entranceway into the development? It's just not on this map?
Correct. So
Oh, well, that's perfect.
So it takes a little while to get there because you actually have to go, if you're coming from the orchard, you go through Burl till you get to 18th and then you head north. And so, you look at other parts, over here, like Warner's over here. You'd love to just come straight across, but there is no road. So you have to go from Warner down to Burl, across 18th and back again. And that's where this road would be so much quicker if you're going anywhere where we are now, because you hit Lindsay Creek, you drop down, and then, you know, you can get down here. So, yeah, the access right now is all coming from 18th Street. There are people who will drive on this road when it's open, but it is a private road. The reason it's closed now is we've done some construction, some preliminary construction, our next phase. We likely won't complete that phase this year, but we've started some construction, so the contractor has it closed while he's working on it.
So would it be a private road for the next 10 years until you hit the 300th unit?
That's correct.
And would it just, so I guess my question, and maybe this isn't a question for you, it may, is if people use that road because it's, say, developed before the 300th unit is in, I mean, is it just nobody reports it and it's fine, or?
Well, just to be clear, if we pave this, it will then become a public road immediately. So what we're proposing is we would pave up this grade to somewhere around here. And then what's gonna happen is we still need to put these phases in, so we would seal coat or do something temporary from here, well, from here to here, because we still need to put in, you know, all the underground utilities and everything. But it would immediately become a public road if we complete this project.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. That's my question.
Do you know which amendment or which part of the contract documents that is in, that if it's paved, becomes public? Is there a separate dedication that will be done to evidence that?
Yeah, it'd be similar to when we report the other phases. We would construct the road and turn it over to the city. Now, the section here that we haven't developed, we would put seal coat on it temporarily until we put those phases in. But we would dedicate the land. Well, if we're dedicating the land down the grade right away? We have to for the road, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, this would become a public road from here to here. And I think we would actually it would have public access all the way down.
Sure.
So Jennifer, the current PUD agreement, the latest one on page 13, number 3. Not the word deeded, but it's actually referring to something else. Developer having deeded to the city a finished lot or lots. Oh, that's not relative to the street.
Maybe we want to make sure that we just investigate that aspect.
I
To
mean,
make
normally the
sure,
roads are dedicated as part of each individual plat.
yes, but if they're advancing the road, but not necessarily the plats. I want to make sure that that gets addressed as a part of this amendment. If it's not otherwise already provided for in the other amendments.
Yeah, where it references the completion of the road, it does not specify dedication to the city as right away.
So for the developer, if that's not already in there, would that be a condition that you'd be willing to accept, that once the road is paved, that it would be dedicated to the city?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we would insist on that because we don't want to maintain the road.
Just making sure, because it's private right now.
Yeah, the intention is for it to become, to dedicate the road to the city as soon as it's paved. But I think it would be just the paved section. The unpaved section, we would need to hang on to until we finish developing it.
Okay, and that would be regardless of the phasing of the rest of the developments, but more the phasing of the paving of the road.
Marina, I think you had a question for the.
I do have a
applicant.
question for the applicant, if you don't mind. In the letter that we received, from the HOA, they indicated that they would like to see a three-way stop either at, I believe, Appaloosa or Golden Hills. Would you guys be open to the idea of having, because right now it looks like Golden Hills is the last like side street, arterial street that's going along. that main roadway. And then commit to, like, as you do the next phase of development down that roadway, moving that three-way stop so that it kind of slows down that traffic.
So I thought they were proposing one at Appaloosa.
They said or,
Okay.
Yeah. at
yeah,
Golden
either Golden Hills
Drive
or
at the
Appaloosa. I think it would make more sense to put it at Golden Hills, considering that's gonna be where that consistent flow of traffic.
As a follow-up on that. The conditions that he is asking to be changed, lighting and trees, begins as it drops away from future developments. So they are talking about areas in current development.
That's true, yeah.
That are not
Outside.
Part
pertinent
of the
to
change.
this
Yeah, yeah.
particular.
It's outside the.
Outside stuff, yep.
It's outside.
Thank you.
And it's also outside our control. We've already, like Appaloosa Drive, we've already turned over the city. We have no say over how the city chooses to, you know.
It's good to know.
Now Golden Hills Drive, we've also turned over. On future phases, we'd be open to changing. I mean, we really don't decide whether stop signs go.
Okay. Good.
One more question for Joel.
Oh, please. Okay.
Or perhaps Pat, once a street has been turned over to the city. Because currently, the stretch that drops away that they're talking about doing the slant. And lighting, public testimony brought up a concern about how steep it is and how sharp it is, and it would be more beneficial to have it lighted. For traffic safety. Although currently as a private road, it's still being utilized or prior to being shut off. So if somebody wanted to come back in that area and ask for additional streetlights after it's been handed over to the city, is there a means to do that so that the city is picking up the cost of additional streetlights?
Severance with engineering, that we do have service requests that people put in for either signs or lighting throughout town. They can always make that request and work its way up to city council if need be for a decision. I'd say it'd be very unlikely, though, just
Yeah, but there is a means
there
to
is a means.
make the request.
Yep.
Thank you.
Commissioners? Not, I will close.
I would recommend going through these letters and making sure any other issue that was noted is addressed. Because these would potentially be contested facts, and so we want to make sure that we document them in any written decision. I would note that based off of what applicant just said, adding a clearly marked pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection of 18th and Appaloosa is also outside the scope of
The scope of this one, yep.
There was also a recommendation for speed bumps, but I think there's a comment from the fire department related to that in here, and then in the staff report, and then the engineering report as well. Provided comment about that was previously discussed.
And I believe the posted speed of 25 miles an hour has already been addressed.
And if I may bring up, one of the letters brought up valid concerns, or what I read to be valid concerns of heavy use for the construction equipment in the coming phases, but any public street would still have that.
Yeah.
Whereas at this particular point, as a private lane, we have 134 houses yet to be built in a soft market. And he doesn't have to do anything, and it's a private road, so theoretically it could be completely shut off
Closed
to
off except for
everyone.
construction. traffic.
Except for construction.
Absolutely.
So that was one of the write-in concerns, and none of us have the opportunity or option on our public roads in front of our places as to what gets to drive on it or does not. Okay, thank you.
Great. The pull-out space was another consideration, and we did discuss that, I guess, a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I look at it this way in terms of pull-out space. I mean, really, what I've been trying to look at is like, what would be an equivalent, what we have now? And my best guesstimate is the steepest part of Bryden Canyon. And Bryden Canyon does not have quote unquote pull-out space
No.
for law enforcement or anything along those lines. It's about the same grade and about the same distance. So I don't think that, you know, I mean, let's face it, you're dealing with two-way traffic. People are gonna pull over if there's a fire truck or an ambulance or something like that going along. I think the community is generally pretty well aware of that kind of stuff, so I don't see it as being a necessity.
So if I may, I had a thought on the pullout question, that was written in, and although they clearly identified law enforcement, possibly again, thinking of speed traps, as we have learned tonight, all of the green space from the alley and down to Lindsay is actually in a green space plan as it is with trails. Our applicant was very clear, there's a lot of trails and they want that to be a destination for outdoorsies. So I'm wondering maybe with this thought of a pullout, they're thinking of parking. It's a very narrow street. Nobody's gonna have the ability to pull off to a side.
But it sounds like the trail is it's got a wraparound design. So the trails that they're currently building within the green space will connect to the paved portion of it coming back up the hill. So I don't look at this as necessarily being something that would be an amenity for general members of the community to come out and park and use it. This is designed for the residents of the, you know, the subdivision to be able to get a little walkabout.
Okay, but with consideration to how people treat spaces that they see, if we're publicly drawing outdoorsmen, walkers, bikers, whatever, that are anywhere in the vicinity, you will find people that will come along and park their rigs and do the bike loop and then get back in their rigs. So if there is in fact turnout space, the residents may discover that it is drawing visitors to the area to park their vehicles while they do
Yeah,
the loop.
which defeats the purpose of having a pullout for law enforcement.
Anyway.
So, yeah.
So it's a
If you build
thought.
it, they will come. Yeah, yeah.
No,
And if
if you
we,
don't build it, they'll still come.
well, yeah, but they'll probably have to park.
Maybe
by the
park
park.
in the
Gravel pit.
Okay.
Park at the RV parking.
Hopefully that'll be
They'll pay
gated
for
when
it.
they start putting in RV park.
And so I think we've addressed the use of a crown shed rather than a crown. Yes.
Yeah, and the speed bumps.
Yes, yeah.
Based on.
Thanks,
So,
yeah.
last letters, their major concern was the crown of the roadway, I think with the support of the Public Works Department.
And with the stormwater plan and everything else and with the curbing, it's not going to cause additional erosion or anything
The
like that.
decision was based off of topography too.
Yeah.
It would still meet the requirements
Yeah.
for storm.
Now that there's been further discussion, as the applicant they still have the last say.
You're more than welcome. I don't know, I can say it. All right. All right, with that, then I will close the public hearing. All right, commissioners, we typically have done some deliberation already, but so. Yeah, I don't think we have criterion standards for this. It's just a yes or no vote. Am I correct?
There is some criteria and
Okay,
standards.
thank you. Wanted to make sure.
They're not the same that you're used to.
Okay.
Which page of the
Which is
packet?
why I asked.
Lord.
Well, there's not a template for this either.
Okay.
Because there's no specifically designed criteria and standards. The main concern would be any conditions that you potentially put onto the development, or the grant or denial. Those conditions are limited under Idaho Code 676512 subparagraph B. When it relates to special use permits, it's because it's referenced in Idaho Code 676515. That for PUDs that are approved or considered, you can use the standards in 676512. Related to, it's, yeah, cross references. So if you do have any conditions that you want to place, the limitations that you have, the conditions, that may be attached to a special use permit, including but not limited to those that minimize adverse impacts on other developments, controlling the sequence and timing of the development, controlling the duration of the development, assuring that development is maintained properly, designating the exact location and nature of the development, requiring the provision for on-site or off-site public facilities or services, requiring more restrictive standards than those generally required in the zoning ordinance, and requiring mitigation of effects of the proposed development upon service delivery by any political subdivision, including school districts providing services within the planning jurisdiction.
Those are things we can't do.
Those are
Can.
the types of conditions that you can
Oh,
place on.
thank you.
And so,
The numbers. I know.
yeah, you can also require any studies or of social, economic, and financial and environmental effects that may be had as a result of this particular amendment, if so desired. I don't know if necessarily the staff reports and the testimony provided would evidence something of that nature. But you're past your evidence gathering phase anyways, and
Yes,
so
yeah.
you won't have what you have before you.
And so, what we are, what's on the table, I guess the PUD on the table is what it says right here, the applicant requests amendments to the design of the 18th Street Connector Road, currently a gravel road between the top of the hill at the north end of the development and Lindsay Creek Road. More specifically, they request that the planned street lighting be eliminated except at intersections, that the planned trees along the roadway be eliminated, and that the street be of shed design instead of a crown roadway. Is that correct? That's what's on the table.
To the best of my knowledge, yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot here.
And I think as we discussed and the applicant was open to, I think the biggest addition that we've determined needs to be added to that is that dedication to the city upon completion.
Yeah.
And I think
Yes.
that does need to be put in there as a,
Yeah, so that would be
Addendum that
that would
we're
be a
adding.
condition to
Yep.
the improvement of the amendment to the PUD.
So I think that, I mean, as far as your decision, you have to make sure that it's in compliance with the comprehensive plan otherwise. And also we'll need some directions to, in addition to the written decision for an amendment, we have to do the agreement related to the amendment. So a PUD is essentially a contract. And so we have to, in addition to your decision document, we also need the amendment document. And later we'll need some other documents from city council. So it's a fairly involved process. This is just the first of many different steps.
So now what's the amendment document that we need?
So it'll be the amendment to the actual PUD agreement and.
Oh,
for
okay,
that-
that's what we're doing.
No,
No.
you got really kind of two things before you.
Okay.
And so one would be, you know, your recommendation to draft a reason statement approving or denying the application with or without any conditions. And then based on that decision, you would direct staff to work with the applicant to draft the amendment. And while the rest of the process plays out, because it'll get to city council and city council will want to review any proposed amendment document in addition to your recommendation. And then they will make their own decision and have their own decision document, but there's also a resolution that gets added to it as well. Yeah.
Okay.
And I thought my job was complicated.
Okay, so do we have to give, there's a lot of code references here.
Well, and then I don't know if you mentioned it, so the request proposal, I would note is in the staff report, the planner staff report.
Yes.
Is that what you were looking
Yeah,
at?
that's what I
Okay.
read.
So I would note that, you know,
That
That's-
would be our recommendation.
yeah, that's what you would want to address, and that's what city staff will address in the amendment document itself.
So could I make a motion that that this planner's staff report request proposal with the addition of dedication to the city as connector street as it becomes right, the city,
So
whatever. we have to say that.
it's gonna be more involved than that.
Oh, mhm.
I can tell you that.
Okay.
Well, I have
That's
one
what
of
I'm-
the
Of course it is.
But thank you for taking a shot at it, Kathy.
Yeah, we just have to keep going here. It sounds complicated.
had it opened on one of these devices.
Okay.
You warned us about PUDs a couple weeks ago, Joel, or Katie, I can't remember which one of you did. You weren't kidding.
Okay, so, as a part of making, so you can make the motion to recommend approval, but I think that in making,
The zoning code leaves the decision of the request to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The amendment to the PUD agreement is a separate process outside of the commission's decision, not recommendation.
so, as far as your decision document, you would want to identify how, if you were to approve it, you'd want to identify how it's in conformance with the comprehensive plan. So any references that you have that you could make as far as that specific to the code, plan, and the testimony received today. If you have any conditions that you want to propose, identify what that condition is and the reason for that particular condition. And how it would, further one of those stated objectives.
There's a list here of things from the transportation chapter of the plan.
Yeah, from TC 1 to TC 4 on and on.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
well, I think the TC2 specifically, as far as the improving the livability while addressing the need of all transportation modes. Like one of the gentlemen who spoke publicly addressed the fact that, a lot of people are already using that route. And I think that anything that we do that improves the congestion that we're getting through like Warner and, Grell and that whole area coming off of Pearl. Let's face it, a lot of people work in those downtown, the mill, the paper,
Oh,
those types of things. And so having some of the traffic filtering off to that, is of course beneficial. I think that, of course, anything is gonna be an improvement of what it is currently. And so I think that definitely matches with the goal of TC2.
And also, if you go down to goal PR1, diversify
Mhm.
recreational offerings to meet the
Yep.
needs of the community with the bike trail. It's very,
Well, having the completing the circle of the trail.
Yep.
Where the walking space and everything else, I think that's beneficial. I think it meets the new changes to the Idaho State Code. Where we're having to look at surface and groundwater and things like that, and the stormwater. I think that the stormwater retention plan is a good one. And, especially if currently right now, everything underneath is rock. Having a directionality as to where that stormwater is going is probably actually going to assist in erosion control. So,
could we add the engineer's staff report to our whatever? I think that we need to add that to our, because I thought that was very good.
excellent report.
And then in addition to the comp plan, whether or not the requested change do or do not conflict or adversely affect the stated purposes of plan unit development, and that's on page 7 of the staff report. And it goes through a couple of different points, so if you could address those as well.
We should just add the staff report to them.
You can, but it doesn't address
It doesn't
those
address
points
that. Oh, okay.
necessarily,
Yeah.
as far as in your words.
I think it was explained by the applicant, by the applicant's testimony that, the changes are going to be done out of sight of the neighborhood. where the development will actually be, so where houses border the road, that remains unchanged. So there will be lighting along the street, there will be trees, there will be all those things. This only occurs once the topography really is difficult and, I mean, beyond just developing it, it'll be hard to maintain those trees and those lights and everything that goes into it because of the topography and the cost and everything else.
Well, and I think especially like along Lindsay Creek, I mean, sounds kind of crazy, but we often drive out around along Lindsay Creek because of how it looks. I kind of like being out in that rural area and getting that little taste of country. And I think that there are a lot of people, you know, you see the housing units that are along Lindsay Creek, maintaining that rustic. And I kind of think about the people that are going to be affected by lighting and additional traffic and things like that. And I think part of what it says in there is, you know, maintaining the livability, maintaining some of that, you know, that balance between urbanization and, you know, maintaining the undeveloped land. And I think that this is kind of hitting that balance where, you know, you've got development, but it's not overly intrusive and brightly lit. And I think that that's a benefit, you know, especially whereas, like you said, it's dropped off the edge of the housing development. And so not having that thing lit up like Las Vegas is, you know, beneficial.
One public comment that we had was a statement about an entry to a higher end or higher scale development and community, and worrying that the proposed changes to that strip of road would somehow make it less. But as an entry, if we're going from a slant road with a single curb and path, and then at that point, now we have a street light, and we have the path, the double pathways and the double drains, I actually think that that is, you have now arrived at Canyon
Yeah.
Crest.
Yeah.
I agree.
Instead of it being at the bottom of the road, you're like, am I there yet? Am I there yet?
But when we consider the topography, there is no plan to run water that full length because there is no developments and no space for developments that's even possible from where this change, the slant road begins down to Lindsay Creek. So it's extending cost that is out of the sight of everybody who lives in Canyon Crest, and coming off Lindsay Creek doesn't have it anyway.
Well, and you know, you look at the fact that, you know, this is going to be transitioned over to a city road as well.
Mhm.
And we have lots of city roads that kind of hit that more rural feel to it as they extend out to that area. Let's face it, a lot of people that are moving out to those outer areas want that more feel.
In one of the conversations or one of the letters, it spoke of bad decisions now that impact developments down the road. Again, everything beyond that final lower intersection is county, and that is outside
Yeah, outside of
our
our scope.
purview, and everything coming up to this point where the double lane and this, you know, so there's no development that's gonna happen in that final strip. And it is providing a benefit to residents
Yeah.
that currently have utilized what is not logistically
Yeah.
or legally theirs to utilize.
So,
And it's giving it back to them in a much greater shape and offering. So I think we have met many of the concerns
Yeah.
of residents. But that, I don't know, anyway.
Well, I think a lot of people maybe were concerned that it was gonna start right away where yeah, rather than at the top of the hill where the gravel pit starts. And I think that when I read the concerns, I really feel that that's what people were thinking.
And essentially it'd stop at where
Right.
current development
Right.
is, and then it would run into future
Right.
development.
And
Yeah.
it would be part of their sideline and.
Right, well, it'd be basically part of, in front of people's houses,
Yeah,
that the
exactly.
roadway would be completely different between two houses
Yeah.
at some
And
point.
so I think it's been clarified that it's.
And an undocumented thought, if this does not get developed in this modified way until they hit 300 houses, which will be a decade down the road. And the lack of lighting.
Yeah.
And the lack of pavement creates a accident by somebody using the cutoff. They
They're
are
not supposed to,
accessing
yeah.
a private road.
Uh-huh. But it doesn't stop people from
Yeah, I was
using
gonna
it.
say.
I'm just saying it puts the onus not necessarily on the owner. It puts the onus on somebody who is trespassing. And
But you know,
so,
it's just like when somebody breaks into your house and cuts themselves, you know, falling through your through your skylight onto your cutting board, you know, you still end up getting nailed with that, so.
I don't want to come to you, but no, what I'm saying is the safety concerns
Yes, yeah.
currently
Mhm.
almost can't come to the table. Because if this change does not proceed
Mhm.
Yeah.
now, then they are likely not to have any improvements, or for that matter, potential access to
Well-
what currently exists.
And you're potentially, I mean, if this doesn't go through and you don't have that development. Or you don't have that road being developed, as new houses are being put into that development, then you are potentially increasing the number of
Getting
people
more pressure.
that could use that roadway.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's gonna be significant.
be a
but
draw.
could
It would be a
Yeah,
draw
it'd be a
for
draw.
them.
It would be an increased draw.
Well, and I think speaking of draws, I think them developing this roadway actually ends up being a draw for purchasers to the subdivision.
That's what.
Because, you know, if I'm working at the mill and I don't have to go all the way around Burl and everything else, and I can find a little bit of a.
So do we need to put a time limit on a condition on this?
No.
Okay, so then
Not
as
within our
it
scope.
becomes paved, it's dedicated to the.
Once it's
city.
completed.
Once it's completed.
Upon completion.
I thought that it said, thought that the developer said that they were going to pave the first section to that alleyway first, dedicate that to the city. No,
It was the other way around. It
The other
was
way
cut
around.
from Lindsay.
they're gonna do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then lastly, when we talk about comprehensive plan, it's also talking about mitigating or creating existing burdens
Mhm.
to current resources. And I think about Warner, and I think about every time we do a development or this commission hears additional applicants developing
Growth
out
that
that direction, it continues to add
Yeah.
traffic burdens
Mhm.
and congestion. We've heard that about school buses, about et cetera. And I think that this in many ways would in fact reduce the
Mhm.
congestion because it gives them an alternative
Yes.
that has them avoid these heavy trafficked areas.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, a lot of the speed limit and stuff like that is, I mean, let's face it, it's gonna slow down at near 30.
Here, the new highways picking a few of those off.
Yeah, generally speaking, people understand deer 30 and slow down.
So
Definitely.
do we have we tied it back to the
Do
comprehensive?
we have enough information
Yeah,
there for
I
you,
mean, that would
Jennifer?
be-
Yeah.
The purposes of the planned, the PUD. Zone. Whether or not the proposed changes do or do not conflict or adversely affect the stated purposes of the PUD.
No,
They do.
no.
There's different criteria that's there that you can potentially address.
We did. I thought we did. Somebody get that list. Let's
I
start.
think 4 and 5, you guys kind of talked about.
Okay.
So 4 is to provide a means for greater creativity and flexibility in design and development that provided a strict application of zoning subdivision codes, while at the same time preserving the health, safety, order, and general welfare of the city of Lewiston and its residents. And then number 5 is to encourage the overall planning, designing, and development of larger tracts of land.
I think we hit number 2 with, you know, kind of finding that balance between having the open space and preserving the natural resources and kind of keeping that like open space feel compared to, you know,
And then Cindy just spoke, I would say extensively to number 7, which is to allow for exceptions to standards in the zoning and subdivision codes without sacrificing overall benefit to a neighborhood or to the community.
Especially with the clarification that it'll still be developed per the city standards up
Yeah.
until that.
I think you guys also addressed number 8, to promote more cohesive and coordinated development. And number 6, to provide a better means of cooperation between the city of Lewiston and private developers in the urbanization of undeveloped lands and the revitalization of existing deteriorated or underutilized lands.
Are we covered?
I think you're probably sufficient, like. I've obviously to review the written document.
Yeah.
At the next meeting.
All right, well, with that considered, Kathy, do you want to rephrase or remake your motion?
Okay, I will move, just a minute, I wanna get it, it's a PUD A 25-1, this number. Down. To the city's staff.
direct city staff to create a reason statement.
Right, city staff to create a reason statement approving, well, maybe Maureen should make it. I can't find my,
It's an assist, Kathy, she said.
There we go.
yeah,
Do you need the language?
oh, I got it, okay. To make a reason statement for reductions to the street design and development standards previously signed to and approved in the Canyon Crest PUD dated 2017 for the most northerly segment of 8th Street extended from the top of the hill at the gravel pit to its intersection with Lindsay Creek Road. More specifically, the planned street lighting be eliminated except at the 2 intersections at the top and bottom of the hill, that the planned trees along both sides of the roadway and the associated 7-foot wide irrigated turf planting strips be eliminated. And that the street be of shed design, one-way slant instead of a crown roadway. Is that what you wanted?
I recommend you just.
Oh, gosh. Motion to direct staff.
Go ahead, Joel, before we make.
Before you read another,
Novel?
yeah, are you going to, does the commission want to include, as, an addition that well, we already have that, the street dedication one's completed, she's got that one, but I didn't hear you come to a consensus on whether or not you thought there should be a 3rd street light added if and when the future access road goes in.
No, I thought we had consensus on that.
Once the access road comes in, isn't that going to be a whole nother separate discussion or no?
I don't know.
There's a good chance it is, because.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to direct staff to draft a written decision for amendment to the Canyon Crest Plan Unit Development. Approving
With the addition.
with the addition of dedication to the city as a right of way. As it is.
Consistent with the
Or is it-
discussion,
What's that?
consistent with the discussion you.
Okay, so legal. He said that, whatever she said.
Consistent with the discussion that we've had,
This is consistent with this discussion we've had.
I will second that motion, Kathy. All right, it's been moved and seconded, commission. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Should be no.
Motion carries. All right, first step in a long process. So we do have one public hearing on our agenda, commissioners. So this is a public hearing and for a deliberation the staff regarding the recent statement for conditional use permit CUP 25-4 by Stephanie Weidman. So the same process for a public hearing as usual. I'll skip going through the entire spiel again. But it will be the same process. So we will open up the public hearing.
All right, wait for it to come again. Staff rolling thing. Dawn, Katie Hollingshead, Assistant Planner. I am here to present CUP 25-4. This is a request for multifamily residential when located on the ground floor of a structure in the Seaport General Commercial Zone. So tonight we are going to have some deja vu. You will notice a lot of this sounds very, very familiar, and you're gonna say, Katie, did we not just have this come in front of us? And you did, for the property across the
I had to
street.
look at the map just to make sure.
I saw it was, I saw it
Very
was
similar.
G Street.
Very similar. It is, yes. So we're gonna talk about it again, and very similar, slightly different, but very similar, so. Come on, there we go. Okay, so on today's CUP, so this subject property is located at 1313 G Street. So this is right across the street from a property that we saw last month. So this is currently an office building. It has 2 suites in it. Surrounding neighborhood is a mix of uses with an office building adjacent on the west side, a storage warehouse on our north side, a medical clinic and a retail store on the east, and then a mix of commercial buildings and single family dwellings across G Street to the south. So you can see my building here. You can see we've got some parking going on here. This is G Street. This is Jefferson. So same map with our zoning layer turned on. So bright red for our C4 general commercial zone. You can see there is this little tiny pocket down here about 1.5 blocks away. That is that higher density residential zone, or R4, but everything else is that C4. And then again, same map, except with our comprehensive plan future land use layer put on. So you can see this kind of greenish color is our neighborhood commercial area. And it is noted in our comprehensive plan that for this neighborhood commercial designation, that residential attached and residential multi-unit housing are both considered supporting uses in this area. And then some photos. So this is our subject property. You can see we have 2 doors for each of the 2 commercial suites. This side is currently occupied by New Beginnings Counseling, which is owned by the applicant, and this would be the side that would be converted to the studio dwelling units. Now, in the staff report, I did notice today, when I was going back through my photos, that I did reference it incorrectly, and I said the west side of the building, but it is the east side of the building that we will be changing. The east side is the larger portion of the building. The west side is the smaller portion when it's like split. And then this side has, I think it's Valley Drug Testing is hanging out over here.
Yes.
So deja vu today is our property across the street. So this is a former office space that is across the street to the south. And this property was recently granted by this board a similar conditional use approval for multifamily under CUP 25-3. So surrounding neighborhood, so like I said, office building to the immediate west. You can see the new courthouse farther to the west over here. And then we're gonna do some pivoting. I make a circle. I stand in front of places and I make circles. I'm sure the neighbors think I'm real weird when I do that.
Make yourself dizzy.
Right, I'm like, great. So anyway, so I'm looking at the intersection of G Street and 13th, looking west. So you can see the fire station and fire administration building is down here. This is again, that office building that's next door, and I'm standing right in front of our subject property. Both G Street and 13th Street are collector streets. If you remember from my previous presentation, collector streets are deemed relevant to multifamily uses because they're the most appropriate because of the type of roadway that they are. So then pivoting some more, I'm now looking east on G Street, so you can see some of those single family dwellings. This is an HVAC contractor down here. And you can see Demeen Family Medicine is right here across Jefferson, and then that retail gun store is a little bit farther. And then as I noted in the previous staff report I gave for this area, the Lewiston Community Center is another block down and has that new bus stop. So this is on a bus route with the bus stop being 1 block away. And then looking north on Jefferson, so I'm at the corner of Jefferson and G, you can see down here, so this storage warehouse that's directly to the north of them is owned by Les Schwab, and so Les Schwab's right over here. So lots of gentlemen and tires, one around back here. And then looking again at the subject property, you can see their parking area. And they do have an existing parking lot. It does have one ADA spot that's right here in the middle. You can see its sign is right here. And then there are 6 standard parking stalls. There's also space for some tandem parking where you see this RV. Parking requirement would be 1 space per dwelling for the residential unit, and then 1 space per 250, then half of 1 space per 250 feet for the remaining commercial space. Valley Drug is about 1,000 square feet based on their original floor plan that I pulled. So they would need scroll. I didn't realize that went off my page. I'm sorry about that. So they would have adequate parking because they would need 5. Let's see, other things that are pertinent. I feel like I've covered most of the things.
Along the road there too. Spots.
About that one, Jordan. Okay, so like we talked about, comprehensive plan, so we are in that neighborhood commercial, which is meant to provide low intensity, commercial services, primarily for surrounding residences. The residential attached and residential multi-use housing are both considered supporting in that area. As we've talked previously on multiple applications, staff has been approached by property owners more and more often about creating ways to use their spaces, specifically converting commercial spaces to residential spaces. So this is the 3rd one you've seen in the last 12 months, where someone is converting a commercial space to some sort of residential use. So we had a rezone, we had the duplex adding a 3rd unit across the street, and now again, an office space looking to convert to residential space. So I think that will continue to be a trend. Even though our previous applicant did say that the housing market is softening, I feel like the housing market for detached single-family dwellings at a high price point, that is the market that is softening. I think the market for rental properties, the market for multifamily, the market for more affordable housing is never going to be satisfied. So
Limited capacity.
yep, yeah, and we don't have, I mean, most of the builders in town build detached single family. We do not have any local builders who are looking to do commercial residential, where it's a multifamily situation. So I think that we will be seeing more and more of these sorts of things coming in. So this application would, going back to our comprehensive plan and the satisfaction of those goals. So LU point 2, provide housing choices in Lewiston. LU 2.1, diversify possible housing options. And then we've talked before about economic development, such as barriers to entry when it comes to getting different kinds of positions filled in Lewiston and the housing being available. I think creating housing in any way, shape, or form is always going to be a benefit to our community. So as I've mentioned in previous ones, although the subject property is not a retail space, with the increase of work from home jobs, this space is not as in high demand as housing is. Talked about parking, and then the applicant has, this was a question previously. So before the applicant even turned in her application, I did have her meet with both fire and building and walk the building to make sure that it could be converted. Because I don't want to waste anybody's time. And so she met with them, and they felt like requirements could easily be met. And you'll notice that fire specifically made that comment. She will go through that change of occupancy permitting process, make the required changes per both those code sections before occupying it as residential space. And with that, I would stand to questions from the commission.
This one for clarity, so the business on the left or the west side will remain.
Yes.
And then all the space that goes to the east is going to convert to 3 studios.
Yes.
And the owner will be a resident in one of those 3, if I remember the
That's
whole.
my understanding, yes.
Good questions, commission, before we hear from the applicant?
My
As
map,
always,
can I
Katie, excellent.
I don't think so. Okay.
You thought that be the
Plans need to be up, but
I don't think so.
okay,
You can just introduce yourself, and then anything you want to say.
okay. My name is Stephanie Beedman and I am the one that owns the building and am wanting to convert my 2/3 of the building into housing. It's just more affordable for me to be able to live there, and have 2 more units, available to rent to other people. It's just something that will help, make my mortgage payment and give me a place to live. And, we're all trying to live as cheap as we can. So I don't really have anything to add to what she said. I didn't know she was going to do a PowerPoint, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, I also, my medical conditions gets me really close to all my medical appointments and stuff. And so it would just be really great improvement for me in my life if I could be able to do that. So I don't know what you guys want to know.
Questions for the applicant commission?
I guess one quick I had, do you have if it is in fact, approved
Mhm.
and, you begin working with the city for the conversion of the space, do you have a timeline that you expect to?
Within 30 days. Easily, because the only thing that we had to do that I'm remembering was add in smoke detectors in a couple of places and then a carbon monoxide thing. We already have them. They just need to be, he's already got them. They're sitting on the counter. They just need to be put up.
Oh, so the existing space is already divided into 3?
Yeah, it's, I have like office spaces. There's like 4 or 5 office spaces in there. Technically, they're office spaces, that will be converting into those studio,
And each will have an, exterior door of their own?
or window to, yeah.
Oh, I see, okay.
Mm-hmm,
It meets fire code.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
Cool, thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Commission? Oh, go ahead, Shay. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Since this might be addressed as far as like noise goes, since there is somebody next to you,
Mhm.
do you have something in place to address that?
We hadn't actually talked about that, but Dexter, who is the owner of Valley Drug Testing, we went over there, talked to him, let him know what we were doing. It's probably gonna be quieter than it was as a business, where I have people walking in and out, in and out, in and out. So I'm a therapist. And so I would have somebody coming in every hour and parking coming in and going out, and people coming in and going out every hour, all day. And, my phone ringing constantly and the fax machine going off and the copier and, this and that. And, where I have my desk right now is up against his wall. And, I can hear his phone and him talking and giggling and, doing stuff like that. So, when he's got people coming in and out all day long too. So it'll probably be quieter for everybody when we do this, yeah. And there will be no like people partying or doing anything like that, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Elon, did we have any testimony from the public on this? I assume not, so. So commission, if
Pretty
that,
fair.
if you're free to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if commission, if there's no other questions, we can close the public hearing and deliberate. Ish, all right. Close the public hearing, all right. These are the criterion standards I actually know.
Right, and it's physically
Familiar.
comfortable to have them written down.
Yeah. All right, so we'll just go through these one at a time. So number 1 on our relevant criterion standards is that the proposed use will or will not result in conditions that will tend to generate nuisances such as noise, dust, glare, vibrations, and odors, or if so, any anticipated nuisances will be appropriately mitigated. I'll take this one and say that it will not result in conditions. The applicant addressed that when she answered the question from you, Shay. Converting from a business to a residential, odds are pretty good. It actually will be quieter as a residential versus a business. And this may be dwelling a little bit in number 4 as well, but since it already is pretty much, since it is subdivided into office spaces, you're not talking about blowing up any walls or really adding anything to the building that would generate nuisances, even in just the development of the space, so.
Sounds good to me.
All right, well, then we're all in agreement, number 1. Number 2, the proposed use is or is not a public necessity or is not justified by the applicant and deemed to be a benefit to the public. And I didn't have to practice that one either.
I'll jump in, Gabe, and say that the proposed use is a public necessity and is justified by the applicant and deemed to be a benefit of the public, you know, as Katie pointed out. In this current housing market, there is not a lot of development of, you know, multi-family dwelling type things. And especially in an area where we need some of those smaller housing units, and a lot of people are looking for something that is studio sized, things like that, less expensive. And of course, obviously, the location where it's close to medical facilities, things like that is a benefit.
All right, well, if there's no further commentary on number 2, number 3 is the character of the proposed use, if developed according to the plan as submitted, will or will not be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located.
Out across the street, it's, you know, there's kind of that mix use going on. So I don't think.
All right, number 4, the proposed use will or will not endanger the environment or the public health or safety.
Number 4, it will not endanger the environment or public health or safety. Because it's not gonna be a lot different than what it is now, maybe a little bit more parking, I don't know.
And from the staff report, there's.
Yeah, it didn't have any applicable commentary on it. Number 5, the proposed use will or will not be in substantial conformance with the comprehensive plan.
Providing diverse housing options, more housing options.
Affordable housing for
Yeah.
lower income.
And we talk a lot about developing downtown for on-foot traffic, and we're literally next to the bus stop and quite a number of the resources that the city provides.
And I would just enter the staff report into the record on that too, because there's a substantial number that are listed, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And number 6,
I was gonna say, also the lack of opposition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
It's always a given.
Tis true.
opposition. So number 6, pursuant to Idaho Code 67-6512, the conditional use permit may be granted subject to the ability of political subdivisions, including school districts, to provide services for the proposed use. I don't recall seeing any applicable commentary on that, but there was no opposition to it one
No.
way or the other, so. Services are already being provided to the space. That's gonna continue one way or the other, so it won't have any impact. And then number 7, the proposed rezone is or is not in conformance with Idaho Code 67-6537, use of surface and groundwater. I think in this case, that's just a not applicable. We didn't hear any
NA,
testimony.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't hear any testimony on it. Like any residents in the city, it's subject to the stormwater fee. So, yeah, I would put that as an NA. All right, commission. Well, we've gone through our relevant criterion standards. Would somebody like to make a motion on conditional use permit 25-4?
I will make a motion to direct staff to draft the reason statement approving CUP 25-4.
It's been moved and seconded that the commission directs staff to draft a reason statement for conditional use permit CUP 25-4. All in favor, say aye. Aye. You opposed? No? All right, motion carries. All right, so the only thing left on our agenda, other than adjournment, is staff commission communications. So Katie, take it away.
So we do have, I think we have 2 public hearings, at the August 3rd
Goodness, we're busy.
meeting, one for a zone change and one for what's the other one? Oh, a comprehensive plan, amendment. So is anyone not able to come? Commissioner Wolf, emailed me earlier and said that she would not be able to be here. She will be out of town. Is anyone else unable?
Should be able to, barring something unforeseen.
I think I'll be here. Having a life outside of home.
Only Emily is gonna be gone. Okay, super.
I just wanted to know, when I listened to the video from the last meeting, I couldn't hear some of the motions and the seconds, so just make sure that you're speaking loudly so that the audio can be captured. I had to reach out to Dawn and Katie to figure out who had done it, because I couldn't even tell by like head nods or anything, and I watched it back.
Usually I'm really loud.
I put the CC on and everything, and I couldn't catch it, so that becomes problematic.
Add on to the plot.
That becomes
I had a meeting about, no.
That becomes problematic if we have a land use application that's contested, we have to be able to produce a transcribable record. And if we can't, then we have to redo everything because it's non-compliant with Idaho law. So we don't want to do that. And then
For such a good time.
And then Katie's aware, but I just opened we call them RLS, request for legal services, because there was a pretty substantial court case that came out of the Ninth Circuit. So I plan to provide you all with a case update. It's a significant update for the purposes of the city because it adopts a minority view related to facially discriminatory zoning laws. So zoning laws that potentially discriminate against protected persons. The Ninth Circuit has adopted the minority viewpoint that if it benefits those people, then it's okay. And so it's particularly, this case is related to sober living houses and distance requirements between other sober living houses. And it applies not necessarily just to sober living, but any law that on its face would appear to discriminate against a protected class. So.
Okay. So essentially indirect harm. Is that what I'm
Well,
understanding?
No, I mean, a facially discriminatory law is a law that discriminates on its face. So we do have regulation with our zoning code that defines like a single family home as a single family residence can include a residence of up to eight individuals with disabilities. And that on its face is discriminatory because we don't have a limitation for a family.
We don't say you can only have 6 kids.
Yeah, we don't say you can only have 6 unrelated people living together. Yeah, but we do say that, for a single family dwelling, you're limited to 8 people with disabilities that are unrelated. And then one person can live, one like caretaker can live there. So we recently addressed this with a reasonable accommodation request that we bypassed planning and zoning for, based on that accommodation.
Is, so just as like a sidebar to that, because our definition like echoes Idaho State
Yeah.
code. Do you know if they're making adjustments to their code also?
I don't think so. And so there's public policy reasons for it. And I think that that's it's a long thing. I'm about a quarter of the way, a third of the way through. But the reason why they do it is public purposes, and that's to make sure that these people aren't being taken advantage of as far as the regulation. We do have a residential Facility Care Act. That's not the exact name, it's a longer name, but when you have 8 or more individuals living in a situation that qualifies, you're actually regulated by the Department of Health and Welfare, I believe, or Public Health.
No, it's health and welfare.
And I'm guessing that that's kind of the legislative intent behind that, because it's state law. Our city code mirrors that, so it's not necessarily our city code that's the problem, it's state law. And so,
And so it's partially the purpose of,
there's a public purpose behind
yeah,
it.
the regulation beyond just who decided to write in X number of individuals with X disability or some other
Yeah.
facially
And with
discriminatory.
us being a Dillon's rule state, we're limited to do what the legislature authorizes us, and when it comes to zoning, that's what they've told us to do, and
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
But, you know, we, when it comes to reasonable accommodation requests to our city code and zoning, you know, we do take an individualized look, and we found a workaround that if we got a request of a similar nature, that would be sustainable, as far as the accommodation that was granted. But this would, you know, may have changed some of the analysis, but I think that, I mean, we haven't necessarily had the issue where we've really had to fight against that particular section of city code or, you know, state law to the point where we weren't able to grant an accommodation. I mean, the next step for that particular case, because it's already been up for reconsideration, would be appeal to the US Supreme Court. So unless the US Supreme Court makes a decision, that minority viewpoint will be controlling in the Ninth Circuit. And it's because it's an interpretation of federal law.
When you say minority viewpoint, you mean a minority, so we're talking like 2-1?
Minority viewpoint out of the 11 districts of the United States
okay.
Courts of Appeals. Most of them have not adopted this decision, and it's,
The Ninth District Courts.
it contravenes
Yeah.
the guidance document from Department of HUD.
Oh,
So,
okay, okay.
so Housing and Urban Development. So it's doesn't follow that guiding document.
Right, so you have split circuit courts essentially.
Yeah. So there's a split, but it's not clear yet if they're gonna do anything about that split.
Right.
Gotta leave it to the Ninth Circus.
Oh, yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, the Ninth Circuit, while it has been historically known to be the most, you know, controversial, the last number of years, it hasn't been the Ninth Circuit, and very little has come up or reversed.
Yeah.
So I think it's the first, or I know it's the Fourth Circuit that
Yeah.
almost every single decision that's issued the last couple of years has been reversed.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Doesn't keep them from trying.
Not the Ninth Circuit. So we've been
Relatively
flying under
quiet.
the radar.
Between the Fifth Circus and the Ninth Circus, they're about a
Yeah,
decade.
oh, yes, the fifth one too, we can't forget that.
So yeah, I plan to give you all an update on that chain, because it's significant when it comes to zoning.
Okay.
All right, permission, well, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn. And I will second that, all in favor? Aye. All right, thank you for your time.
That's gonna get real interesting
That is
when
gonna
it
get
comes to